This tutorial will show you how to use some of the basic features of the ArcGIS server web-based GIS modules. First thing you need to do is type in the URL http://gis.lanecc.edu. This will take you to the home page of the GIS program and modules at Lane Community College. Second, click the Modules tab. There are two applications, one web-based GIS from ArcIMS, the other web-based GIS from ArcServer. We're going to scroll down to ArcServer and click on Server Maps and Lessons. The tutorial is the first one on the list. Click Tutorial, and then click the link to the web-based map. This takes a few minutes to load, and it may get stuck at the 55% loading, and if that happens you can hit refresh and it will load better the second time. When your map comes up, you'll see that you have data layers on the left side of the map. This is called the table of contents. You have tools. Many of those are probably pretty common to you if you've used other kinds of web programs up at the top. And I'm going to click the zoom in tool with my left mouse button and hold it down and draw a square around the continental United States, and it zooms me in. I'm going to zoom in on Oregon, and I can turn on the U.S. cities layer less than 50,000, and if I expand the legend you can see that the dots are related to the city sizes. I can zoom in and the map refreshes. If I want to know what that point represents, I'm going to turn off Oregon counties because the map tends to identify things in order. I'm going to click on the eye tool. I'm going to click on this dot, and a data table comes up related to that point, and this is the city of Albany. And you can see that there is information about Albany in this data table. You can scroll across, excuse me, let me get that out of the way. You can scroll across this data table and see that it has a population number, has a lot of information that's related just to its ID. There's an FID, there's an object ID. It gives me a field talking about, or a field with the number of households, 17,374. This is for 2000 census data. I can close that table, but let's say I want to find a specific city. If I right click the data, I can go to something called a query layer. I can click on query. You might need to move this table up a little bit so you can see the whole table. And let's look for a specific city name. I'm going to double click name, click equal, and if I go to get unique values, let's find a city, click Limbrook, and then we choose OK. The city of the data related to the city of Limbrook pops up, and I don't know where that is, so I can choose select zoom to selected feature, and it will zoom me in to the city of Limbrook. And if I zoom out a little bit, it's in New York, so there's the state right there. One of the things you may be seeing is that there is a base map at the bottom of the layers. So if I turn off U.S. states, I can see the base map related to New York. But let's do something else with that point. Let's say I want to be able to identify a distance around this point, maybe 5 miles, and see what cities are within a 5-mile radius. Once a point is selected, I can go to right-click the layer, open the attributes or the query table, and choose Buffer Selected Feature. And let's say I want to type in, let's do a 10-mile buffer. I'm going to change the distance to miles and choose Buffer Selection. And I see that, let me zoom out a little bit. So that's a big arrow, zoom back in. There you go. So this is a 10-mile radius, and you can see that there are quite a few cities that are in that 10-mile buffer around the city that we had interest in. I'm going to clear the selection, and I'm going to remove the buffers. And I'm going to go to the extent of the map. So let's go back to the global extent and zoom back into Oregon area again. And I think I want to turn the U.S. states back on. There we go. Now, there's a measure tool that allows you to measure linear distance and area. And so I'm going to click on the measure tool, and I'm going to choose just a line, and I'm going to measure. If I hold my left mouse button down and drag straight down, I can measure the distance north-south in Oregon. I let go, and it gives me both the length in miles and in kilometers. If I want to clear that line, just click one of the other tools. The line again. A polyline allows me to click multiple points. So let's say I wanted to figure out a route from the coast to the valley, down the valley, over the Cascades, up to the Columbia, and back home. And that gives me a route with many what are called vertices. Every time I click, that's a vertice. I'm going to clear that. And the last measuring tool would be a polygon. And if I wanted to know the area, I'm going to zoom in here on the valley area and say just a general area between these large cities and these smaller towns. Go back one. Polygon. And as I click, you'll notice that a shadow, kind of a drop shadow, gets pulled along as I move and click, and it gives me the perimeter, the distance around that feature, and it also gives me the area of that feature. With this tutorial, you've learned how to turn layers on and off, how to zoom in and out, how to expand the layer so that you can see what the legend labels mean. You've learned how to query the layer in order to select specific information. Once a layer has been queried, you've learned how to buffer that layer. You've learned how to use the measurement tool to measure linear distance. And there are many ArcServer maps. Each one has different thematic layers that will allow you to explore other kinds of geographic concepts and use this important tool for making decisions.